Okay, this is a video for a windshield washer pump replacement. So I got these instructions online. To do this, pretty much you have to take off this front grille. It's quite large, but it's not as bad as it seems. So I'll show you which were the spots where there was something to remove. Here, then down here and here, and here. It's one of these pop-up things that comes out, and then pop-up thing there, and on mine the pop-up thing that would be right there was missing. So anyway, I just had one, and they're the same on the other side. This is a 2008 Corolla. There was a lot of rust, more or less. It's 2022 now, so I did use some PB Blaster. I managed to get them all out without breaking anything. Hopefully it'll go back together. Now the issue here was the washer motor wasn't making any noise at all, and of course it wasn't pumping. So I pulled it off, and you can see it's quite damaged. It certainly looks like it's cracked due to freezing. I might have run water in it last summer and then tried using all the water up, but it may be that you can't use it all up, and then maybe I didn't add anything before the first freeze, or maybe the second freeze, and then the water that was in the line probably fills this up enough to crack it, but that's just speculation. I don't actually know what happened. Might have just broke by itself, but it certainly looks like it's cracked. So here's the idea. I got this replacement piece part, this pump, for about $10 on Amazon. It does come with apparently compatible with the original. Now we'll see about that. That's the way it looks there. I'll use pause and I'll start putting it back together, and we'll see, okay, if it's really compatible. Okay, on my first attempt, I couldn't get it to slide in far enough for it to click. It looked like it was sliding in, but not quite all the way. So I took some dielectric grease just to lubricate this plastic fitting. I had bought a can of this dielectric grease. It's like some sort of a spray can, kind of like spray foam. And what I noticed was after a couple of years, it wouldn't spray out at all, even though it seemed like there was plenty in there because the can was heavy. So I just cut the can open, and now there's a lot in there. I just take it out as needed and apply it where I need it. You don't really need that tube at the top where it comes out. That wasn't really worth it. If it had just come in a little toothpaste type tube, it would have been much more useful. Okay, so now I'm going to try putting it in again to see if I can get it to click. Okay, I'm going to use the pause again. Okay, I did get it to click, but it did take quite a bit of pulling on it. I thought I might actually break it. I was going to let it be without hearing the click and without seeing that little tab snap back up into the locked position, but I just kept at it, and it did snap and pop in. I would say the lubrication definitely is necessary. I should have added more probably. Okay, now I'm just going to try putting it into there and reattaching that tube. I don't expect any issues. I'll use pause. Okay, I was able to slide that tube on without any difficulty. Sometimes if that tube is hardened or cracked, you can nip off the lower section and then put a fresh piece in, because normally there's a little bit of slack on the line. But in this case, that tube seemed fine because this car is a 2008. It's not that old. It's only about 14 years old. That's not that old. Okay, so now I'm going to slide that in there. Okay, that's slid in, no problem. Now, the kit did come with a new one of those washers, or grommets, whatever you call it. And I could have pulled that other one out and used the new one. I don't know why I didn't. I probably should have. But normally, I don't take things apart that I don't need to take apart. And that was already in there, so I just left it in there. Okay, it should be fine. Now, I'm going to start putting this grill back in, and then I'll start attaching these components. I'll use the pause function, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm putting it back in reverse order. First, I was able to get the grill in position without having to hold it or anything, snapped in place. Now I'm going to add the fasteners. The first one I'm going to do is the last one I took out. That's this one here. And there's not one on the other side. The second one that I took out was the one right here. But what I noticed was, as I was handling it, the grill slid off. So apparently the grill snaps in place. I didn't even kind of notice that. So what I'm going to do is I'll position the grill, and then I'll put that one in. Okay, I'll use. Okay, the grill snapped back in place, no problem. I was able to snap this pin in. Next are these screws that have rubber bumpers on them. They go in these positions, so I'll do these on the right and the left side, and I'll use pause. Okay, those went in fine. I'm not going to tighten them all the way, although I probably could, but whenever I'm doing an assembly, I always just get the screws in and then tighten them only after the whole assembly is in place with all the screws in. Okay, that grill just snaps into position on the lower part. Okay, and I'm just doing it in the order I took it apart now. These three screws over here probably won't matter, but I'm going to do these two lower ones first. They're longer, and the upper one is the first one I took out. So I'm going to put these lower ones in first. Okay, I've got this screw in here and this screw in here. I didn't tighten them all the way. The next one is this shorter screw up here. Now this one you do have to pull back. This is the first one I took out. You have to pull back that liner to get access to it, and then once it's in, the liner can snap back in under that trim piece. Okay, so use pause. Okay, I was able to tighten that up, and I snapped the that liner in place. It looks like it's in the correct way. I wanted that to be a little bit tighter there, but I convinced myself that everything was aligned, and that's just the way it is. Now I'll just snug up the bolts. Okay, I tightened up all the bolts, and it looks like it's fine. I snugged these bolts in place with a Phillips. Now these ones, getting them out, I had to be patient. I could have snapped those off. Because you only have access to a Phillips head, and that will very easily round out. So I put the penetrating fluid from underneath. I sprayed it in from underneath because that's where you have access to the threads which stick through. And then I just worked it back and forth on both sides until it came out. Okay, and one of these is missing, as I mentioned. Normally over the years these things will come off. They're not really needed. You can see this one in the middle is somewhat optional. Just it would stay in place without it. Okay, I'm going to add the fluid and just check out the operation of the pump. Now they are working, but they don't seem to spray up, you know, really high. Or even with a lot of force. Now, sometimes you can change the angle on that, but I'm going to say there's not a lot of force behind those. And I don't know if changing the angle is really going to help because they are pointed at. I might try aiming a little higher, but anyway, it seems as far as the replacement goes, it seems fine. The motors might not be the strongest in the world, but should pass inspection, so that's all.